It's the gas station. It's gas stations. Come on. It's gas. It's a gas station. $2.49. That you know that was back in the day, because gas prices like $4.30, $4.49, $6. $2.49. I would take that. Oh my God. Just saying. Sup though. Right. 9.9 times out of 10, something goes.
When I was younger, I used to work the night shift at a gas station on the edge of town.
And it's a night shift.
Overnight, it would usually be pretty dead. The gas station was not off of a major highway or anything like that, so overnights I would usually be the only person there for a great deal of the night. I didn't mind because I could just chill behind the counter and listen to a podcast or something like that when the place was empty. On one night, it was probably about 3 o'clock in the morning, and we hadn't had anybody get gas in about 30 minutes at least. I was standing behind the counter when I noticed a car slowly pull in. We only had 4 gas pumps and a small parking lot, and the car pulled just between the 2 pumps and sort of just sat there. I assumed whoever it was would just get some gas, and then I noticed another car pull off the road and up to the other one. They both sat there in the parking lot sort of next to each other for a little while.
Sus.
Then the windows rolled down on the 2 cars, and I saw the drivers were both wearing ski masks. This is when I got sort of concerned. They were not getting gas and appeared to just be talking to each other. Finally, I saw their doors both open at the same time, and both men got out. When they did, they both started heading towards the store where I was sitting behind the counter. As they walked towards the door, I looked at the man reach for his side, and it appeared to me that he possibly had a gun. I was terrified. I ducked down, and while crouched over, I ran for the back of the gas station where the bathrooms were, and then ran inside one of the bathrooms and locked the door behind me. Luckily, we had single-room bathrooms, and not just an open bathroom with some stalls, so I felt much safer in there. Just about the same time that I got inside the bathroom, I heard the door to the gas station being opened. I sat on the ground next to the door and tried not to make any noise. I heard the men walking around the store and could hear them say a few words to each other but couldn't make out what they said. Then I heard some louder noises as if things were getting knocked over. I did feel kind of bad for just running away, but if these guys did...
I didn't. I don't. Shit. I would have hauled... I would have ran like crazy. Jesus. I have a headache.
Had weapons. I was no match for them, and I felt much safer locked in a bathroom than out there with them. Eventually, I stopped hearing the men and realized they must have finally left.
You sure?
I waited several minutes and then slowly opened up the bathroom door and peeked out. As soon as I did, I noticed that both of the men were still inside, and as soon...
You should have just called the police. When you was in there, you should have just called the police.
I looked out, they looked right at me. I saw one of the men was about 30 feet away from me. His mask had been lifted above his face, and I had a better look at him. I immediately shut the door once again, and saw the men start towards me as I did. I heard one of them tell me to come out if I didn't want to get hurt. What I did instead was take out my phone and call the police. At this point, I didn't care if I was hurt because the men already knew that I was in there. I spoke to the police and yelled as loud as I could that I had called them at the same time. The men stopped telling me to get out at that point, but I did hear one of them try the door handle to open the bathroom. I kept the police on the line, and they said they would be there shortly. I stopped hearing the men after that once again, but I didn't dare open the door. I waited for what felt like forever, but at last the police showed up, and I finally came out once I heard them. When I did, the men were gone, and the gas station was somewhat messed up. The cash register had been broken, and several other items were stolen or on the floor. I spoke with police for a while, and then stayed there for quite some time. After reviewing security footage, it was determined that the men did in fact have guns, which looking back makes me more scared and all the more lucky I was okay.
Why didn't you could have just called the police without letting them know that, you know? The police could have just snuck up on their ass.
This happened several years ago during a road trip back home from Ohio.
Right.
I was about 5 hours into my drive, and I was tired and thirsty. It was pretty late at night, which made for smooth sailing on the freeway, but eventually the gas light on my car came up, and I figured it was time to fill up at the next stop. When I got off the freeway and into the next available gas station, I could see right away that it wasn't the nicest of areas. Some buildings were deserted, and others were in pretty rough shape. I got out of my car and pumped some gas. I looked to the store connected to the gas station and saw that there was a sign saying it was open. After I got some gas, I decided to go inside and get some water. When I walked in, I noticed that there were bars on the doors and bars on the front of the counter as well. I wandered to the back end of the gas station and saw a man standing in the back corner. He wasn't really doing anything other than just looking at me. I walked over to the waters and picked up 2 of them. I could sense the man watching me for the entire time as I did. He was wearing a big jacket and a winter hat, even though it wasn't really cold outside at all, and the way the man was looking at me just seemed really strange. I wandered through a couple of aisles to see what kind of snacks they had, and as I did, the man slowly walked along the back end of the store, staring at me the entire time. I decided to go over to the counter and pay for the water. The man didn't directly follow me, but he remained looking at me the entire time. After I bought the water, I went outside and walked back to my car. I was looking to get out of that town because it didn't seem all that nice to me. As I got into my car, I heard footsteps behind me. I glanced behind and saw the man who had been staring at me walking after me, and he seemed to be walking at a pretty fast pace, and quickly locked the doors to my car and then started the engine. About as soon as I could, I drove away and noticed a car pulling into the gas station slowly as I left. When it did, I saw the man who had been following me get inside of it. The car then made a sharp U-turn and began to follow me. I got on the next road back to the freeway, and the car followed me on as I did.
Damn.
Once we both got onto the freeway, the car then started to tail me and go very close to my back bumper. I didn't know what this man could have possibly wanted with me, or who else was in the car with him, but I decided to just keep driving as best as I could. We both continued for...
When there's stuff like that, I don't know if y'all remember this movie, but like, if somebody's ever followed me or in a situation like that and they very close, I wish I had a car, the what's it called, Inspector Gadget car. Oh man, it was nice. That was nice. It was a great movie. I had a great time watching that movie when I was a kid. But, you know, having an Inspector Gadget car, that would have, you know, I would have just, you know, with the car, my car itself, I would have probably just had a gadget or whatever and just flipped the car that was tailgating me, just flipped it, you know, just nudged it a little bit, you know, nothing too serious, just, you know, moved it over to the side and it would roll over 20 times. Nothing serious.
In 20 minutes. There were really no other cars on the road at all, and I was getting more and more worried the longer we drove. In a kind of spur-of-the-moment decision, I saw an exit coming up on the right side. I remained on the road until the absolute last second I could, and then suddenly swerved to the right and took the exit with just a little bit of distance to spare before I went off the road. The car tried to follow me, but couldn't quite make it and ended up staying on the freeway. I quickly made several turns and drove around that town for a while before merging back onto the freeway. I didn't see that car or the man again, but I always wonder what they wanted from me.
They wanted to get up in that ass. That's what they wanted to do. That's what they wanted to do.
Several years ago, I was traveling through a very rural area where I received no service on my phone or anything like that.
Wow.
I was on my way across a 3-state road trip for business. I had been following Google Maps for the trip, but when I got into this particular area, it completely stopped working. Unfortunately for me, I was not on a major freeway or highway, so it wasn't all that easy for me to navigate the more quiet roads. My goal was to make it back to the freeway, and then I would know where to go from there, but I must have made a wrong turn or something, because the more I drove, the more I seemed to be going into the middle of nowhere. All I was seeing was trees and country land, with not even any other cars on the road in sight. It was about 11 o'clock at night, and at last I saw a gas station on the right side of the road. I had plenty of gas in my car, but without service, I figured I could stop and get either a map or I could ask who was working how to get back to the freeway. I pulled in to see that nobody else was at the gas station, but the lights inside did appear to be on, so I decided to give it a try. As I walked up, I noticed that the whole place seemed to be really outdated and looked like it was straight out of the 1990s. I parked my car and got out and walked inside. Sure enough, the door was unlocked, but once I got inside, things seemed even more strange. The place literally looked like it hadn't been touched for 20 or 30 years. It was abandoned, but did have some products for sale. I looked at the front counter, but I couldn't see anyone there. I walked over to it and looked beyond the counter.
Sus.
I even called out hello to anyone who could have been there.
Shut
but
up.
I received no response.
Get out of there.
I wandered around the store a little bit.
You doing
The more I
something?
did, the more of an eerie feeling I had.
Get out.
The whole place just seemed creepy, how nobody was there, and the place was seeming to be abandoned.
Haul it.
At this point, I decided I could find my way back to the freeway myself. I wasn't comfortable there anymore, and I decided to leave and walk down. I got back inside my car and started it up. I took a look back at the gas station and noticed at the window directly in front of me, there was a man with his face pressed up against the glass, with an insanely creepy smile on his face, looking right at me. I wasted no time in driving away. I didn't look back and drove on the road until finally I had some service again. My maps connected once more, and I was able to make it back to the freeway. Looking back at that trip, I always get the creeps when I think of whoever that guy was looking at me the way that he did.
It's the gas stations. It's the gas stations. That's another cluck place. Anybody that works at a gas, I know somebody that works at a gas station. I just looked at him like, we used to be co-workers, but now he works at a gas station. I'm just, every time I look at him, I'm just like, you clucking yourself up and you don't know it yet. You are slowly clucking yourself up, no condom necessary. Just saying, God forbid you work the night shift. Because when I was seeing him, it was like during the day. You know, it was sunny outside. But like, I feel like anywhere you go or you work at, during the day, the day shift and the night shift, two totally different shifts. But the graveyard shifts, my ass. Keep it cool, keep it classy, and I love you. Stay happy, my family.